Thank you everyone for joining us. In the early weeks of COVID, around March this year, the academic community was taken by surprise. Each institution devised its own survival strategy, trying to stick to the curriculums under ever-changing restrictions. Yet what started off as somewhat of a chaos gradually turned into a newfound academic routine, which comes with a set of challenges and opportunities for academic. Today we'll be focusing on the silver lining in the cloud and offer an insight into the many opportunities embodied in the remote and hybrid learning models, which are now gaining traction. I am honored to welcome our three distinguished panelists. Jane Ross, education lead at Zoom. Jane has always had a passion for technology. However, as an engineer by trade, having received a Bachelor of Science degree in telecommunications management at DeVry University, she has the unique ability to take complex subjects and make them accessible to everyone. With that learner mindset, she is now responsible for working with universities, schools, and the education community at large to truly understand how to connect with students and drive learning and innovation virtually in general and on Zoom in particular. Yfat Godiner, Ben-Gurion University CIO and Head of Technologies, Digital and Innovation. Yfat has an extensive knowledge and experience of international and large-scale information system management. During her career, she led innovative cross-organization technological processes in global organizations. And finally, Professor Roy Shenhar, Hebrew University Professor of Chemistry, board member and head of computerized teaching technologies. As a graduate in computer science with a passion for teaching, he has set up the computerized teaching technologies team. Since the onset of the pandemic, he has also been managing the academic aspect of remote learning at the Hebrew University. We will leave the final 10 to 15 minutes for taking questions from you, the audience. So if any question or concern comes to your mind during the event, feel free to send it via the Q&A box. We will answer some of the questions live, but don't worry if we didn't answer yours, we will get back to you after the session is over. Okay, we have a very interesting discussion ahead of us, so let's start. Our first topic in the agenda is hybrid learning in the COVID era. Just to clarify, hybrid learning is an educational model where some students attend the class physically, while others join the class virtually. We see the educational environment is going more and more toward a hybrid learning model here in Israel. Jane, what are some of the recommendations you would make to our audience toward their journey to that hybrid model? What are you seeing in Europe and in other regions?
Thank you, Tamar, and thank you to NowTech for arranging this webinar today. We're happy to be here with all of you. So, Tamar, Zoom has been living in the world of hybrid education since our launch in 2011. And we've seen COVID only expedite this approach across the global education community. From day one, we've designed our products to thoughtfully and seamlessly connect remote users joining on their devices using Zoom meetings to those sitting in physical classrooms powered by Zoom rooms. And we are continuing to enhance this relationship between meetings, webinars, and rooms by improving existing and adding new options to allow educators to better manage and control their classrooms securely. In order to make Zoom easily available in a variety of settings for hybrid education setups, whether those are primary, secondary, or higher education, we are expanding our hardware partnerships as well. And here's a quick look at when we expect those hardware options to become available. So as you can see here, we are adding 5 additional hardware options by the end of this year, as well as another 4 coming in 2021. And lastly, I just want to let the community know that we are seeing our global education users contemplating and addressing the exact same issues that we're discussing here today. So you are definitely in good company as you decide the best path for your institutions as well as yourselves.
Yeah, thank you, Jane. Yifat, I understand Ben-Gurion University has already started piloting on hybrid learning. Could you share your experience with us? How did you overcome the gap between remote and on-campus students?
So at Ben-Gurion University, we've built 90 hybrid classes and prepared to open the semester with hybrid teaching. Unfortunately, there is a lockdown in Israel, and we couldn't open the semester as we planned. But what we are doing, we are leveraging those 90 classes for our lecturers. And just a second, I will explain what are those hybrid classes. The hybrid classes were built with advanced multimedia and cameras that help monitoring the lecturers and enable the lecturers to speak as if they're in a normal class. It is a normal class, but with all those technologies. And now what we're doing is, with the lockdown, the lecturers are coming to the classes, the students are at home using Zoom, but we're using it as a normal classroom. So the lecturers use the blackboard, they use the advanced technology, and the students at home feel as if they are sitting in the classroom. We also have big screens where the lecturer can see the students and address them for questions, see the chat, and behave as if he's asking them the questions as if they were actually in the classroom itself. So it's a pilot for us to start using the hybrid classes. It's not completely hybrid because we don't have some of the students in the classroom, unfortunately, yet. But we do have the lecturers in the classroom and the students at home. And we are getting very good feedback for that, because it is different than what we used to in the previous semester, to only have the lecturers sitting in front of their laptops and using Zoom for teaching. Now we have the full classroom with all its technology in addition to the Zoom, in order to teach our students, and we are getting very good feedback and a lot of freedom for the lecturers to move around the classroom and use all the facilities that come with it.
Roy, what are the challenges the lecturers would be facing?
Yes, well, I think that hybrid lecturing is probably the most demanding of them all. It's even more demanding than complete online learning, I think, because we need to understand the intellectual burden, the mental and cognitive burden on the mind of the lecturer. In a sense, the lecturer now has to juggle not only between the blackboard and the students, but also between two audiences of students and different systems, computerized systems. And well, most of us are not fighter jet pilots, right? So in order to be able to do it right and to deliver an experience that would work for both the students and the teacher, I think that the technology should be set up in a way that would bring the students close to the teacher, so he or she could see them quite closely, not with shifting images and so on. And the same works for the other direction. So the lecturer should be felt by the student as if he or she is there, close to them and paying attention to them as well, to make sure that they are not second class students. So that means a lot of technology inside. and training. And I think that in that sense, the close down, the shutdown in Israel actually was graceful for Ben-Gurion University because it made them implement this technology in a stepwise manner. First, getting the lecturers to be comfortable in this kind of situation, and then hopefully when things will open up, to start practicing it in front of both live audience and online audience.
Okay, thank you, Roy. And now let's move on to discuss the future of remote learning in academia. Is remote learning a fad or a revolution? Will it stay with us post-COVID? In fact, what do you think?
I think it's definitely a revolution. When I joined the university a year ago, one of the first questions I asked is, why aren't we using technology for our teaching? And the answer is that most people don't want that. They're used to the traditional ways of learning and they're happy with that. And I was quite upset about that, I have to admit. But then came COVID-19, and with that came a big digital transformation. And for every bad, there is a good. From that perspective, I'm happy about COVID-19, not from all perspectives, but from that perspective, it really made a huge digital transformation. We haven't just transferred to using Zoom. It's not only about the technology. It's all about the pedagogical mindset that you mentioned, Roy. We launched many additional tools like discussion tools and polls and gamification. There are many methods of teaching. It's not only about the front lecturer that comes to the class and speaks for an hour and a half, and then the students have to do their homework. It's many more methods on top of that. And of course, technology helps to enable all that. And so it's definitely a revolution. And I'm absolutely confident that the day after COVID-19, nothing will be back to what it was before COVID-19. Life is changing in many respects, but I think for the educational, even more. We are going to advance and to leverage those technologies and to change the way we taught before, and it will be just much better.
Roy, Yifat focused more on the technological part. How do you see it from the academic point of view?
Well, yes, at the end of the line, there are always the bottlenecks, the teachers themselves. And I'm confident that they would be enthusiastic to go back to the classroom whenever it's going to be possible. But there was a huge investment. I think that the remoteness created a situation in which everyone understood that just moving the classroom to the online space is not good enough. It just doesn't work. And this remoteness creates some barriers that you have to bridge. And in order to bridge them, many more activities needed to be implemented inside the course. And there was a huge investment from most lecturers on this aspect. So while they would be happy to go back to the classroom, they would probably not want to ditch everything, all these hundreds and thousands of hours of investment, and they will continue using them also in the future. I'm quite confident in that. So for this prosaic reason, I think that some components of it definitely are going to stay with us. Needless to say that it opened up the possibilities for other markets or other options of remote teaching that are now being, it's now possible to do. And before that, it pretty much jump-started all these initiatives that were laying there quiet, waiting for somebody to take the initiative, and it would never have happened in 20 years, I believe, unless this pandemic happened. So I'm confident this is also a revolution. I'm not sure, that nothing is going to go back. There's going to be quite a lot of regression in this sense, but but I think that the revolution at least has started, and we are going to see an increase of use of technologies and more importantly, new pedagogies that are based on technologies that make the lecturers make their students come more active to class.
Roy, what we can separate from the pedagogical aspect, what is your take on online exams? Proctoring is a matter that concerns so many educators today.
Yeah, well, I think this is the weak link in the chain here. Academic integrity is probably one of the most important values of the academic life, and we cannot sacrifice it for any price. And the truth to be told is that we cannot do proctoring remotely very effectively. There are many technologies. The prices for it are immense, because it means that if a student takes an exam at home, then it means that proctoring has to enter his private space. So, and people apparently don't like it on both sides, both the students and the lecturers alike. And that means that we have to understand that we have to shift the way that we assess students. It's always been there, but we just stayed always in our comfort zone. And the thing is that nowadays the grade, which is an external motivation, I think is not good enough to motivate students to learn. And you should, as teacher, I do it now in my course, we should encourage students for good studentship, to be in touch with the course all through the course and not putting all the effort for the exam at the end. And that will allow us to reduce the weight of the exam in the final grade, and to assess all through the way, and then to make shorter exams which are harder to cheat in. And I think this is the true solution, not to find more clever policing and proctoring solutions.
Yeah, agreed. Jane, how can colleges and higher education institutions leverage remote learning sessions to build their reputation and evolve their business model?
Well, Tamar, luckily, this isn't a new model in education. In fact, prior to COVID, about 33% of students globally were taking at least one online course. So in a segment that was once dominated by for-profit universities, it's now booming because public universities are also joining the market. In fact, in the EU, Germany leads the e-learning market, growing at a rate of 8.5% annually in comparison to its economy, which is growing at around 1.9%. And by including remote learning options, education institutions can expand their reach beyond their local market. We've seen this develop in different ways over the years, including 100% online institutions, such as Open University, and also traditional brick and mortar, offering online remote options to provide added flexibility for the ever-changing student model. And, you know, we're seeing students leaning into the remote learning model who are those that may have started their journey to a college degree but never finished, or those balancing a family or a career, or maybe both, and those interested in changing careers potentially, or wanting to move up in their current role. And in fact, according to a report for the European University Association, the main mission of the European higher education area is to utilize digital learning for enhancing traditional education rather than replacing it. So it sounds like a nice marriage of the two sides.
Yeah. You know, students of all ages miss the social aspects of the learning experience that have always been an inseparable part of student life. Jane, can you share some ideas for social engagement in a remote learning environment?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, there is an example that is near and dear to my heart. I am a mother of two boys, ages 9 and 10. and we are preparing for our older boy to move on to secondary school next year. And so we've spent the past several weeks attending virtual campus tours to find the right fit for him. This is obviously a different approach than we would have taken other years visiting the campuses in person. But from a Zoom perspective, we've also seen our education customers organize virtual orientations and graduations with really clever ideas to excite and engage the audience. So one example that comes to mind is a university in America who included a surprise special performance by Alicia Keys for their virtual graduation, which actually would not have been possible if they were doing the event in person. And most importantly, I want to share with you something that was announced at Zoomtopia. We've seen a huge community grow and develop into a marketplace for experiences. And so whether we're talking about an alumni group or an art or a math club, we've launched On Zoom, which provides an online events platform for free, paid, and fundraising events to provide an easy way for groups to connect socially, all within the Zoom ecosystem.
Sounds cool. Anyone else wants to jump in with other ideas?
Yeah, I'll be happy to. A couple of weeks ago, we conducted a digital hackathon at Ben-Gurion University. And the purpose for that hackathon was to discuss the new learning in the new era of COVID-19 and the impact for the future. And first of all, I want to talk about the digital hackathon. It does bring also advantages. Many students participated in this digital hackathon. And for the ceremony at the end, when we selected the winning technologies that we want to continue with, a lot of people joined. A couple of hundreds of people joined that celebration session. And I'm pretty sure that if that session would have been in a physical place, not so many people would have come. So like friends could join, families who wanted to see their children participating in the hackathon. So in a way, the digital platforms enable more people to join that we wouldn't have seen in a different era. So that's one thing about the hackathon. But what I wanted to say is Ben-Gurion University is really known for its social life. And our campus is really known to be something that is really fun for the students on top of their studies. And when we ran the hackathon, we were so surprised to see how many students were really relating to that they miss their social life, because it's part of what they come to do in the campus on top of their studying. And what we did is we took those ideas and we are working together with the students to prepare the technology to make the social life continue. So it will be different. It will not be the same. It will not be on the campus, or maybe hopefully later this year it will be at least blended. But at least for now, when it isn't, we launched an application for the students where they see the full life cycle for any students. So they get the information they need about their studies, they get their curriculum, they get their timetable, but on top of that, they get many social activities, like they can plan together who wants to study with who and create groups, and then join on a media like Zoom, like we are meeting now, and study together, each one from their own houses. They can even go on dates, so we can have like blind dates for teens who want to join. So there are many creative ideas that come in this time where our life is changing and everybody thinking creatively. Like Jane, you mentioned, open days for school. We also had open days for our campus. And we really took them on a tour in our campus to show them what the campus looks like. Because for the students who come for the first time, they've never seen the campus. So even now, if they're studying at home, but they've seen it in the open day, they know how to imagine the class, and especially when they have the lecturer in the hybrid class, so they even see the classroom. So there are many, many ideas and ways to keep our social life differently than what we used to, but still have a social life and enjoy it, and enjoy the years when you're studying, even if you're at home.
But you're making me want to go back to being a student.
You're invited.
Roy, anything you'd like to add before we move on to Q&A?
First, I would like to know if automatic recording is set up also for blind dates on Zoom. But other than that, I mean, I don't have any clever ideas in terms of real social life, but I can think about the social aspect of the academic interaction that students also miss through their studies. And there are ways that we can do something about this. So we, in my course, for example, we opened one of the meetings of the course is a repetitive meeting, which is called the students' room, and they're encouraged to coordinate meeting there in order to solve their homework assignments, for example. And most importantly, I think on the side of the lecture, it's a good idea to, again, create some activities during class which are not only posed as a question, an open question to the audience, which is usually, regularly in frontal teaching with show of hands grants you about 5% response, to use polling techniques and polling tools in order to make all the students be engaged. And you know what? It works like a charm. I do it in my class. I have 260 students enrolled in my class. I usually stop the polling after 100, and if I'm not quick enough, it's 150. Everybody gets engaged in this. And I think in a way, it overcomes the barrier of interaction between the students, which is so important for their learning.
True. I would add to that also the breakout rooms. We are getting great feedback for the breakout rooms, because it brings you into smaller groups. So even if you have 150 people, students in a classroom, but then you break them into smaller groups, the interaction between them, it really feels like they're in a small classroom, talking to each other and creating great ideas together. The collaboration is really enhanced in the breakout rooms.
Yeah, I would say it even further. I mean, when it's 150 students enrolled, nobody speaks. But when you break it out to 5 people, and now you're staring in the eyes of 4 others, being able to stare for 5 minutes is not a human virtue. So somebody will start speaking, and then a discussion starts and the ice is broken.
Yeah. One more thing I would add to that is the chat. The chat enables students that are more shy to speak out. In normal life, they wouldn't. They were too afraid. If you have a class of 150 students, they're too shy to speak out. But in the with the chat or with even this platform, even if they have open cameras, it feels differently than in being in actual classroom. And we really see that. We see populations that usually do not speak at all in the classroom are now really engaged. And it makes a huge difference, and it's a great opportunity for them. So I'm happy that those people have an opportunity now to speak out and to get the answers for those questions that they always wanted to ask.
Do you have policies for making students open their cameras?
We ask them to do that, but we cannot force them to.
They don't have to.
But I think it really is important. It does make a difference. When you open the camera, you feel more engaged. Yeah. So I think it's a good advice for the student to do, but we cannot convince anyone to do that.
Yes, we at the Hebrew University, the official policy is that cameras must be on. It is all about, learning is all about social interaction. It has always been like that since Athens 2,400 years ago. And we try to convince them, I did it personally in my course, saying that, besides being more pleasant for me as the lecturer to look not at black screens, it's also important for their engagement, because the main reason why students shut down their camera is not because of privacy, because you have this blue background that is possible, and it's mostly because they are engaged in something else. So I tell them, listen, opening up your camera is just the same as moving your phone to do not disturb and shutting down any messaging system there is. It just makes you be part of the class, and otherwise you're just going to miss out on it, because multitasking is for computers, not for people. And I must say that most of them comply. I look at the galleries, and gallery after gallery, and their faces staring at me, which is really nice. I think I also tell them that it's important for themselves to see each other. If we're talking about this social barrier, then closing the camera is not helping it.
Yeah, of course.
You were also mentioning yesterday about the fact that our names are on the screens, right? That's not something that you get in a live setting, which enhances that communication and the connection between the students.
Yes, that's true. It's both things. First, all the students now sit in the front row in front of the lecture. All of them, right? All of them the same size. There are no smaller ones and larger ones. That's one thing. Secondly, I feel as if I'm a radio anchor. I see blue raised hands, and then I pick up and I say, "Oh, Shlomo, what do you want to say about this?" And I don't have to remember names. And you know what? When they see one of the students that they are interested in interacting with, they know their names already. Whereas in frontal teaching, nobody works with a name tag. So in some senses, it's even better. And my colleagues tell me quite the same, that having the names is wonderful.
True.
Yeah, good point.
We can also address the students. So not wait for them to ask the questions or answer an answer. Just, we can just pick up on somebody and say, Jane, what do you think about that? And then
this is
engage them
intimidating.
and make sure that they're listening. So it's also very useful.
Yifat, this is intimidating.
Especially when they have their cameras off, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Try and see if they're there or just the black camera and nobody behind it.
Okay, we've reached the final part, which is our Q&A session. And now it's time to take some questions from the audience. Jane, would you like to read some selected questions?
Sure, happy to. So the first one we have is from Ronan, and it looks like Ronan is specifically asking for Yifat's input on blended learning at BGU. What impact did you notice this model had accomplished?
I think it's a huge impact. The blended learning enables a lot of creativity. The traditional learning is all about a lecturer coming into the class, speaking for an hour and a half or however long the lesson is, and then leaves the students with questions and homework, and that's it. Well, some of them maybe engage the students more than that, but I think the blended learning enables a lot of creativity. It brings digital tools, it brings homework for the students. Sometimes before the class, we ask them to prepare for the classroom and then turn the lesson itself to a discussion platform. We'll leave them to creativity. I've seen courses where they became like a hackathon. The student had something to prepare in advance, and then there was a competition, and there were a lot of discussions and small rooms for the students to prepare before they come to present to the classroom. So there are many creative ideas that are enabled by the digital platform. So I think it makes a huge difference. So those blended opportunities are bringing a different way of teaching. And as we said, it's all about the pedagogical mindset. So that's a huge difference. And as we mentioned before, it makes a difference for the individuals because not all students are the same. Some are really happy with the previous methods, and some find it much easier to work this way. So when you bring a lot of opportunities and a lot of options of teaching, everybody can find what is best for them and get the most out of it. So I hope that answered your question, Maureen. If you need more elaboration, then please ask.
All right, thank you so much. All right, and then we have another question from, excuse me if I don't pronounce the name correctly, Sveta. And the question is, how are you planning to manage students' involvement in the education process and keep their motivation at a high level? And it's to nobody in particular.
Can you repeat the question, Jane?
Sure. How are you planning to manage students' involvement in the education process and to keep their motivation at a high level? So basically engagement and excited and making it interesting.
Yeah.
I think I can address this. I think that, one of the main keywords in here is enhanced empathy. We have to be, as lecturers, we have to be more available to them. I decided to start office hours, constant office hours. I have one today, every week. Usually I used to give it to my teaching assistants, and with me it was just by appointment only, and usually just few students pick up this club and this opportunity. And nowadays I have it every week, and students are coming in and discussing things with me, and that increases their motivation, and they tell me so. That's important. We create very different activities in the classroom. We try to connect what I teach to the real life, to make it more fun. You know, it's not a bad word in teaching. To make it more fun and interactive. For example, we set out an assignment to contribute entries to glossaries. And they have to contribute original entries. That means that they have to look what other people have already written because they cannot write the same things. So well, we haven't started it yet, but I'm pretty sure that some of them already asked me questions about it. And it seems that they are intrigued by this. So we just have to make our teaching a bit more fun. And I think that it all helps, and combined with empathy and more availability of the teaching staff, the core staff to the students, can help increase their curiosity, and with it also the motivation. Yeah.
I would add to that also the timing. It's every student can now decide when, where, and how to study. So if they're not able to join the classroom, so they can see the recorded lesson. If they want to see it on their mobile, that's fine. If they want to see it on their laptop, that's fine. If they want to be engaged, they have so many opportunities, and they can also use those materials before their exams. So the engagement here is so much different than it used to be. A lot of opportunities. So I think it's like studying everywhere, anywhere, from any place, and in any device.
Yeah, that's a huge advantage, especially for students who are, parents, or they have careers also.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Jane, one more question?
We do. And again, it's just to the broader audience. From an anonymous attendee, how should an online instructor respond to religious students who have strong filters and cannot participate in all of the non-Zoom activities?
Tough one.
Wow, yes. We face it at the Hebrew University because we have a large crowd of strictly Orthodox religious students. I must admit I don't know the right answer to it. I realized that also they have a barrier that we did not anticipate, which is the resistance for their studies at home. Some of them actually, it was realized that some of them actually were studying at the university without the knowledge of their family, and now it's at home. So kind of, yeah, it's not very funny. It's actually a very serious problem. And I mean, in terms of filters and technologies, the Hebrew University has set out a program to distribute computers and means, cameras and so on for those who are in need. Other than that, there is always the option to hear things by telephone, but it's a huge challenge. And in a way, when the restrictions are going to be kind of lifted up, we assume that these students have to be given priority to come on campus in order to alleviate this difficulty. Yeah, I don't have
I can add on that. For the exams, we talked about the online exams previously. And we at Ben-Gurion University launched the Safe Exam Browser that enables the students from changing from their exam to the internet, so they cannot move to that. But we realized that some of the students have restricted internet at their home, and that doesn't enable them to view some pictures, for example. And we want them to do successfully well in the exam. So you find out, because everything is evolving so fast, so you find out what are the problems, and then you find the solutions. And as you mentioned, Roy, we enabled students who couldn't study from home under the restrictions. We let them come to campus and study from here. And we also made sure that every student had the right devices to learn from home if they need to. Some of the students didn't even have internet at home. It sounds weird, but you know, not all populations have that. So we made sure that there will not be a student that is not able to study if he wants to. So we found different solutions for that, and made sure that we will have equality.
Yes, that's right. Also, the Dean of Students at the Hebrew University also distributed netsticks for that reason.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, our time is up. I really enjoyed this panel. I hope you did too. I think we noted many interesting observations. Jane, Yifat, Roy, thank you so much for your time. It was great, really. You know, I think it would be interesting to revisit this panel in maybe a year from now, and further look into the future adaptations that will surely be made to this new reality, which is constantly evolving. So we're done for today. Don't forget to follow us on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. By us, I mean Nowtech. We're all over the internet. Thank you, everyone, for attending. See you in our next event. Have a great afternoon. Bye.
Thank you, Tamar, for setting this up.
My pleasure.